sometimes it takes a minute for the thing to pop up, so I'll introduce you once it pops up. Welcome to another episode of Paranormal, the New Normal. I'm your host, Jeremy, as always, trying to make this world seem a little more normal, but these days, that's a task and a half. But my guest today, my guest. As soon as she sent me her biography, I was like, oh my God, I could have you on for 4 episodes and not run out of things to talk about. My God. But my guest today is Sunshine E. Star. And she's actually pretty local to me because she works in Salem at this point.
Mhm.
And as my listeners know, I'm in Gardner, Massachusetts. So we're about an hour and something minutes apart. I don't know exactly how long it takes, depending on traffic, but around there. Sunshine, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's nice to be here tonight with you.
I thank you for that because it is definitely nice to have you as a guest with everything you're everything. My God, I can't even begin to explain what people to people what I'm talking about. But why don't I let you? Why don't I let you do that? My first question, as always, is what got you into the paranormal, supernatural, spiritual world, whatever you want to call it?
Well, in my case, I was born into it, literally. Um, there is a psychic gift that runs in my family, like my mother, her mother's mother, all the way back. And it, I guess, really hit me pretty hard. I was also born in the Caul, which is when you're born inside of the birth sac. And in the ancient times, when Romans would go to battle, they would want to purchase these birth sacks, which is like the sac that the baby grows in and all the fluid is contained in. I came out inside of that without it breaking, and that's allegedly a very special thing. And the
I've
Romans
heard that.
would purchase these so they could put them under their helmets to protect themselves in battle. Allegedly, someone who comes in that way has second sight already. But then I also have my genetics, which play a part in it. My father is pretty darn psychic. He works with the angelic realm mostly, and and then I guess my astrology, my placements of planets in my chart, just really created a very psychic person. So I was born into it, and when I was about 2 years old or so, my mother told me this story. So she told me that I was holding my arms up in the air for my grandfather to pick me up. And he had passed away like a couple of days previous. And I was seeing him like flying through the air. And if he wouldn't pick me up, I would start, screaming and crying and kicking on the floor. And she was like, "Oh my God, this one's seeing a ghost already. So I guess we're off to the races." Uh, so that's how I got into this world, the paranormal. And from there forward, basically, my parents helped me with my gifts. I was never told that ghosts weren't real. I was always very much encouraged to use my gifts. So I think that's different than most people, and I'm really thankful for that.
Yes, it is different from most people because most people are like basically shushed about like ghosts and anything like that. Like, oh, that doesn't exist, sweetie. Like, no, it does. You just don't want to admit it because you're super religious and you don't want your kids to believe things you don't. So, I mean,
Right,
at least from what people have told me, that's their experiences. I mean, I
right.
never I never saw anything growing up, so I can't really I can't really comment on it because I never really had anything growing up happen to me. I still to this day have not seen a ghost.
Really? Are you
Or
kidding
or
me?
I've had one speak in my ear in the house I'm
Oh,
in right now,
that's good.
but
That's a start.
but I've never seen the spirits that live in my house. And
Huh.
actually, at this moment, we're trying to find someone to get them cleansed out of the house.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I know how
Well,
to do that.
I was gonna talk to you about that off camera actually, since you're
Yeah,
so close. But,
yeah.
um, so so yes, you were born into it, and I was gonna bring the call thing up because I haven't talked about it on this show yet, but
Mhm.
I've heard about it in other podcasts, and I've read about it in history books and whatnot. Like, it's a fascinating thing, the fact that people want the embryo sac that humans are born in, basically.
Right.
Most humans break out of them when they're born, or before that even. But,
Mhm.
I mean, isn't that typically when the water breaks is when the sac breaks?
Yes, that's exactly right. So, yeah, allegedly, that's always going to create someone that can see the other side, you know.
Yeah,
And I
because
think it's neat too because the protection aspect of it as well is really cool because I do feel like I'm protected. There's been many times I could have actually died. I did have a near death experience. That's a whole thing. Um, and there's always I've always been able to be okay in very dangerous situations. And I feel like that's kind of like the blessing of being born in the call, as well as being able to see the other side, to be able to kind of like work with life and death aspects at the same time. I think definitely that gave me a big psychic push. And yeah, it is supposed to be like the water breaks, the baby comes out, and then the birth sac comes out. But I came out inside of the sack, and they had to break me out of it. I guess.
which, I mean, you're not the only person that happened. Wasn't there someone famous who had that happen? I wanna say Rasputin, but I could be wrong.
Oh man, I don't know. I should know that. I used to really love reading about Rasputin. Very interesting fellow.
Oh,
Um,
he I mean, I could spend a whole episode talking about Rasputin alone, like, in the conspiracy surrounding his life, but
oh man, yeah. Well, he probably was a political threat.
oh, he was a threat to a lot of people, but
Yeah. Yeah, a very interesting person though, with his abilities and his charisma, his alleged
yeah,
charisma and
I
his way with the ladies, all of that. Very funny.
well, according to Wikipedia, Lord Byron, the famous poet, was born in a call,
Oh,
and
cool.
I can't find the person I'm thinking of. I don't know. Uh, I don't know. There was and Sigmund Freud, but
Oh, there you go. Very deep thinkers.
yes, and Jonas Salk, who invented the polio vaccine. So,
There you go.
and apparently the Liberace, but I don't know how deep a thinker he was. He was just flamboyant as hell. But
Yeah, maybe he was in touch in other ways. No, he had
maybe.
musical abilities, right?
Oh God, yes, he did. Yeah, he was a musical genius. Some people say. I mean, I don't know enough about him to really say that because I never actually listened to anything he did, but I know about him because of all the jokes made about him.
Yes, mostly that for me too. I think I've seen him on, like my grandmother's TV when I was a child.
Probably. I mean, he was a big figure, but and Andrew Jackson Davis, who was a huge spiritualist figure. I've known that name for years.
Ah,
But
very interesting. Very interesting.
and yes, actually, that's true. People, uh, yeah, a lot of mediums are born with their call. As far as oh yeah, they have to have the veil sac broken are seers. Yes, that's true. I read that wrong at first, and I was like, I don't know if I agree with that part, but I read it wrong at first.
Yeah. So
But
yeah, those are the circumstances that, surrounded my birth, and then my actual birthday is um, in Pisces. And so that's another sign, that's a zodiac sign that's very um usually has intuitive abilities. I haven't really met a Pisces yet that doesn't have some sort of like um, other sense or, kind of in very strong intuitive nature.
you said Pisces, yeah. I'm a
Yeah.
Gemini, so I I'm trying to break through to my psychic side, but it's not really happening yet. I so many psychics memes tell me like, "You have it. You just have to figure out how to open that gift." And I'm like, I can't figure out how to unwrap this one.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's gonna take a lot of work, but I'll get there eventually, I hope. But anyway, tell us about any paranormal experience, supernatural experiences you had. And I know you told me one off camera, which I'm dying to hear about, but I'll let you tell it.
Yes, I really, really want to talk about something that I never get a chance to talk about because it's so weird and it's in the world of cryptids. I kind of like shy away from cryptid stuff usually and alien stuff. And then again, I've had some really strange experiences where I would say I definitely had like an alien encounter, but it wasn't like I met a being, a flesh and blood person. Um, However, the cryptid world has always been to me like, come on, really? I see spirits and I'm very skeptical about cryptids. I'm skeptical about Bigfoot and I'm
Hmm.
skeptical about the Jersey Devil and I'm skeptical about,
Okay, well,
mermaids,
I must have put it
all of
out
that.
there. I must have
Huh?
put that out there. Most people are skeptical about the Jersey Devil. So yeah, but
Yeah, I'm skeptical. I went down there looking around for him. I didn't find him.
I
So
mean, I'm from New York, and I mean, but most, I mean, as much of a, I'm more of a cryptid lover. I got into cryptids before I ever got into mediums and psychics and all
really,
that. But I
I'm the
mean,
opposite.
well, that's why we're a good combo for our podcast. But the Jersey Devil is one of those ones that I was always skeptical about because it sounded like some folklore tale that mothers tell their children at night and stuff. Like it never seemed like as realistic as Bigfoot or Dogman or Mothman even, which
Mothman, there you've said it. You've said the thing that I'm so afraid of in this whole world. So even when I was like, I think I was in about seventh or eighth grade, and I was reading some kind of, horror book, and it was giving like the story about Mothman and just like how he would rip open the tops of cars and steal people away. And I would just get the like heebie jeebies when I would read about it. I'd be like, oh my God, like I can deal with anything. I can deal with Bigfoot. I could deal with a mermaid with fangs. Let me see a leprechaun, but oh, please don't let me see Mothman ever in my life. I used to literally think that to myself. And it seems kind of weird that I would be so afraid of it, really. I mean, there's not much I am very afraid of, but this is like the level of like, oh God, I want to just hide under the covers. And so that was the first time I heard about Mothman when I was in about like seventh or eighth grade. And then fast forward till I'm about 20, I would say 27. So about like 10 years later, right? I'm working for a company called Bellcore that used to be Bell Labs. And I have a pretty cool job there where I'm using my clairvoyance to work with a computer system. My boss was an abnormal psychologist. It was a very fun job. Um, but it would sometimes require me to stay late.
wait, I gotta interrupt. I have to interrupt. How does clairvoyance help with a computer which runs completely on logic?
I,
I- I'm
well,
curious as hell.
yeah, it was really a fun job. It was basically I had to come up with in my mind, I had to come up with scenarios that could possibly break the computer system. So I had to think of a scenario that might cause a hiccup in the program itself. And if I could do that, then that would be a bug. So basically I was in quality assurance for this, legacy system. And I would come up with ideas of how it could possibly go wrong. And then I would write a program to simulate that and then prove it would go wrong or would go right. And that was my job. It was pretty fun.
Was was this an insurance company? Just out of curiosity.
No, this is the telecommunications. Basically the whole bell system, like it's like the phone company, the old phone
Oh,
company.
oh,
Yeah,
oh, yeah, okay,
yeah.
okay, okay.
So
That
communications.
that makes more sense, and, like,
Yes.
okay, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, it's just I'm trying to think of, like, I mean, actually, you could probably get a good job at an insurance company too, trying to think of things that could go wrong with people before they give them insurance.
Maybe, but I mean, I that job ended because I had my near death experience, and I when I came back to my job, I really couldn't work with the code anymore. I couldn't read or write the code. So
Uh,
that was fun.
so the ma so you could say the Matrix beat you finally.
I'd say definitely. I was basically told by my spirit guides, go do your job or we're gonna drop another house on you. And I was like, oh my God. Okay. So I think, I was using my clairvoyance and it was great for me. But I think that my spirit guides and everything about me is geared towards, helping people living or dead. So that is what my job is basically. I read tarot, I do medium work, I get rid of entities and houses that are bothering people if they're bothering people. Um, all kinds of different things. I can read palms, I can do tea leaf, all kinds of different, ways I can do psychic readings, and I do
I
past
mean,
life readings. So that's
huh,
always fun as well. Um,
I I actually had you're my 3rd past life regressionist that I've had on this show.
Oh, it's, so fascinating to me, especially after my near-death experience because I was shown all of the lifetimes that I ever was. So, I really got to experience, um, what reincarnation is like. I really got to see it and examine other lives I've been,
I'm
and
jealous.
yeah, it was really wild. I mean, I don't wish it on anybody because I literally was so comfortable being dead, and I was fine with being dead at that point. When I heard my name being called and I kind of snapped back into my body and I really didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be back. So when, policemen and firemen are pulling rubble off of me, I'm mad at them. Like, why'd you do that? Why'd you bring me back? I was happy, you know?
Well,
And so,
step back step back second if you don't mind.
yeah.
What happened when you almost died? Like, was it actually literally a building collapsing on you, like a fire, or
No, it was basically a big kind of like woodshed that was outside of my house that had, been pretty rickety, but I was using it for, storing wood to,
yeah?
I had like a nice fireplace. And so I would go out and get firewood and take it back in the house and then make a nice fire. And it just happened to pull out something that was holding it all up and it crashed in on top of me, just bam. And
Oof.
so like I was sort of like dying in the snow. The snow was underneath me and my body was melting it and the rubble was crushing me. It was pretty crazy. I had like a lot of like cracked ribs, little cracks in my spine, injury to my head, to my brain, probably in like the logic division, I would probably guess if I had to. Um, but all in all, what was craziest about that night, I mean, not the craziest thing, but one other crazy thing is that I walked out of the emergency room. Just, cracked ribs, have to go lay down. They didn't even need to really watch me. So I had this crazy experience while I was underneath and literally thought I died. Felt like I died. Had a whole experience with the Akashic records, with my own past lives, looking at my karma, understanding my karma, getting mad at my karma. and then accepting my karma.
Let me ask though, did you see any higher power possibly when you had NDE? Like I've had other people on here who have had NDEs, and
Yeah.
one of them talked to God for like 3 days before he, or what he called God, for like 3 days
Right.
before he went back to his body.
I would say that I didn't see, I mean, I saw other higher beings. I definitely did. I saw my own spirit guide. I saw new spirit guides that I was going to be working with. I saw in what I would call angelic forms of beings. I can only tell you what they felt like mostly, or what I sensed, like color wise or feeling wise. Um, but I did not see like a big, old man at the pearly gates or anything like that.
Well,
And
no,
but what?
no, nobody who
No,
dies
I
sees
didn't see that.
the muscular God we all saw in pictures growing up. Like no
I
one
didn't
sees
see
that.
that, and I didn't see God or like, but I felt it.
Yeah,
I
you
felt
felt
incredibly loved. I could hear God in my mind. I could feel it all around me. Um, but I didn't exactly get some sort of extra visitation with
no. I mean,
whoever's called God. I
most
got
people.
direction. I got told what to do, but I
Yeah,
didn't have a like a full on conversation. That was like I was having more conversations with my spirit guides about my lifetimes and accepting what I had done or not done in different lifetimes, including the
y-
present one.
which yeah, I mean, most people I talk to who have NDEs, near death experiences, they don't see God. Like it's not like you die and you're gonna see God. Like that's not the way it goes. At least from what I've been told. You
No,
see,
I mean,
you hear things and you
yeah,
sense like an overwhelming sense of love and like
yes.
someone who's happy you're there, but it's not your time yet, and they're not gonna let you stay there. Like they get that. Like they tell you, or they let you decide. Like the one
Mhm.
guy I had, they let him decide whether it was his time to go back or not.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
Kellen Fluckiger or Flukiger.
Very cool.
If you want to listen to this episode, it's freaking amazing. Like it's called "God at the Door" and "The Grim Reaper at the Poker Table."
Oh, wow.
He's had
Yeah,
he's had
yeah.
he's had multiple out of body experiences, and it's pretty like multiple times like he should have died, but something kept him on this earth, and it's his ability to be a life coach that kept him on this earth. But
See, there's always a reason. There's always a mission. That's what I've
yeah,
determined. It
I
does
mean
sometimes feel like we're avatars and that's the real world and this is not the real world.
the Matrix theory.
That's I
That's
mean it may be a theory, but I think more than this being real or not real, this is real. However, I feel like it's more like here on
it's
earth
real.
we're like a tadpole, and
It's
then
real to us. It's real to us. It doesn't mean it's reality. It just means it's real to us.
or we're like if you think about a tadpole, it only knows, the pond. It doesn't know anything
Oh,
else. Has
yes,
limited sight. And then when it becomes a frog and it's out on land, you can kind of equate that to the other side. Transformation.
exactly.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
I mean, I am a full believer in reincarnation. I'm a full believer in all that, and I believe that we are only meant to experience so much in this life, and then in the next life, we either move on to the next level or we stay in the same level depending on what we did in our previous life. So, I mean, karma, reincarnation, I believe in all that. And
Yeah. Well, karma is interesting because it exists, but also doesn't exist, just like time. Like time exists because we measure it with our clock. We know that something happens, it's daylight, then it's nighttime, but it's also some sort of tool to just measure something. And I think that's more what I found out about karma is it exists, but it also doesn't exist. There was a lot of like quantum physics theories being presented to me, I think, over there. Just, basically that perspective is everything, and that we have to come back to earth until we feel we've perfected ourselves, our soul, till we feel like we are as good as we can possibly get. And we make that decision. So it's not
So,
necessarily it's not necessarily where God decides to put you because of your karma. It's you yourself saying, well, you know what, since I was a bad person last time, this next time I go in to earth, I'm going to try to be as good as I can be. And that's my plan, and then
eh,
you try to do that.
okay, before we get too far though, we're almost a half hour in, but I don't think you told us about your Mothman experience.
No, no. So let's get back to that because we got distracted. Um, but
Wormholes. It
yes,
happens.
so I was working for Belcor, and my job there required me sometimes to stay later at night or to go to different different campuses, office campuses, for different meetings or whatever. It was very corporate, and a
Yeah.
lot of times I would stay late to do my work because I could think better when there wasn't a whole lot of people around. So sometimes I would just stay a couple hours later than other people, just working out my work for the next day, or meditating so I could think of my very good ideas. And I was leaving there one night, where I was in a different campus than my normal office, and there were a lot of abandoned
If
office
if you
complexes in this town.
if you don't mind just telling us the city and state just for
Oh
people
yeah, it was Piscataway, New Jersey.
okay, I can
Piscataway, New
get away.
Jersey, which is like, what the heck, right? Of all places, where, why would a cryptid be there? I don't know, right? So, I was leaving work, and as I said, there was a lot of abandoned or kind of like for lease and empty office campuses that were at least 4 or 5 stories high, large buildings, very large buildings. And I think I had parked kind of far away because I kept walking and being like, where the heck is my car? Like, when I left work, I already felt a little disoriented. And I was like, I don't feel so good. I should probably, get something to eat. And I was trying to walk to my car, but I couldn't exactly find my car. And then, and then literally, I have to tell you, I smelled something. I felt something. It was like, honestly, when I look back on it, I think it was a pheromone. Okay. Just this odd smell, and this also like very interesting pitch in my ear, like a kind of a buzz that would definitely get your attention. And there was also a feeling that went with it, which was sort of hypnotic. In fact, I wouldn't say sort of, I would say actually hypnotic. And I felt these feelings, and I thought to myself, what is that? Like, there were a lot of scientists working in that area, so I wouldn't have been surprised if somebody was like working on their invention, somewhere. Um, but I could I kept walking closer to the noise and closer to the smell, even though I didn't want to. Like, everything in myself was saying, go the other direction, go back in the building. And I just kept moving towards what I would consider danger. And when I got to this corner that was about 500 feet away from me, I looked up because that's where I could feel the smell, the sensation, the pheromone, the noise, all of it coming from. And when I looked up, I saw, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this show,
Oh, go
but I
ahead.
want
Go
to
ahead.
say I saw goddamn Mothman. There was this figure,
You
humanoid
call that a
figure,
swear?
huh?
You call that a swear?
Yeah, just couldn't believe it. literally standing on top of one of these abandoned office campuses, and he had the red eyes. But this was the Mothman version that seemed to be wearing some sort of outfit as well. Like, I don't know whether it was like pants and like a bomber type jacket. I've seen sketches of it, and I've been like, that's the Mothman that I saw. Not like the tall, like lanky one. This was more like tall, but also somewhat looking like a bug and a human mixed together. Not sure if what I would interpret as pants might have been the body, but it was definitely like dark browns, beiges. The eyes were like a burgundy, a kind of like a deep burgundy red, and glowing. And then he also had very like uh long wings that would go out to each side. And so there he was standing there. Okay. I I flipped out once I realized what I was seeing. I was like, "Come on, is that somebody playing a joke?" Like that kind of thing. Literally, this thing jumped off of that building, swooped around, and then I don't know where it went, just disappeared, gone. So I don't know what it wanted with me. I don't know why it decided not to get closer to me. I also really felt like I was having kind of like a mind wipe at the same time, because after that experience, I found myself back at my car within like 2 minutes, which I couldn't find my car previous to that experience. So I think the pheromones were kind of like, I don't know if you've ever like watched Bugs Bunny and the food is like a smell that
Yeah,
lures you
yeah,
somewhere. That's really how I felt. It was like I couldn't really stop myself from going there. And then to this day, I swear to God, if I ever smell that smell again, I'm gonna run the other direction. I swear to God. That was my experience. It wasn't terrifying, but to me, it was super terrifying because I've never experienced a cryptid in real life, close up and personal, full on exactly what's been described in books. And keep in mind, this is like when the internet was new.
yeah.
There wasn't a lot of information. Mothman was a movie with Richard Gere that didn't really match the real stories that I'd read.
Yeah,
And it was in storybooks and stuff like urban legend. It was called an urban legend. And I just, to this day, I still can't believe that that happened to me, that I was that close to what I would call something, living with us, but not living with us. And I don't
well,
know what it wanted. I don't know what Mothman really wants, but I'm glad
well,
that experience is over. And when I even talk about it, I get a little freaked out.
well. Let me ask you this, because well, okay, well, you're my second Mothman experiencer. The other
Oh, no
was in Bear,
way.
the other was in Bear, Massachusetts, which is not far from where I live. Actually, it's like a
Oh
half
my
hour,
God,
45
no.
minutes from where I live. But it was back in the '90s.
Yeah,
So
mine
let
was
me
in
ask.
the 90s as well. Mine was about
Oh,
19, mine was about 19, I would say 1997.
oh, well, actually, we have a comment, and that kind of makes sense. It's interesting she worked communications and phones when she saw it, since so many stories about Mothman involve phones, and that's true. Which brings me to my next question.
Oh, neat.
What
Yeah.
do what do you think Mothman is? Do you believe it's a extraterrestrial, an angel that warns of doom, or a demon that is a bringer of doom?
I
Or
don't know.
just an interdimensional creature who shows up at weird times?
I don't know whether it would be interdimensional or whether this would be like, you know, definitely I mean, I want to say a being, right? Definitely a real, definitely had consciousness. Definitely there was sentience there. Um,
Well, any of those options would bring sentience with it.
Right. I'm not sure. Like I don't I okay, so I know Mothman's not a ghost.
Well, let me ask you this. My last person who saw it, he saw when who saw it in Bear, Massachusetts when he was a kid or like a teenager.
Uh-huh.
He instantly got like a feeling of doom when he saw it. Did you
Oh
get like
yeah.
one?
I had this feeling of like being very drawn and being very repulsed at the same time. It was a very weird smell, like a very earthy, um, almost like
Would you
a
say
spicy, earthy smell. I can't really,
would you say sulfury?
not sulfury, not like sulfur, more like sweet, like a very sweet smell, like
Oh, our listener wants to know, was that before or after the house fell on you? Just curious. Or the
before,
barn?
before.
Before. Okay, well, there you go, Ashley. And
Yeah.
Anne wants to know if you'll be helping with psychic questions today, which is up to you. We didn't plan that ahead of time, and I don't want to impose anything on you, but that's up to you.
Maybe next time.
We could. I'll definitely be having Sunshine back on at some point to definitely
Yeah, we can always do
because
some tarot polls for people.
ooh, I love a good. I've had some tarot. I've had two tarot readings from people on my show, and it's just like it's always so matches what's going on in my life. It's ridiculous. Like
I love
it's
tarot. I love
I
tarot.
believe I believe in it so fully because everything it always says is like things that are going on in my life, and I like these people don't know me from a hole in the wall. They couldn't pull this stuff ahead of time and make up this stuff ahead of time. Like it's just not possible.
It's metaphysical, paranormal. But the other thing though about Mothman was that again, I don't know what he wanted. He didn't really communicate anything other
Uh,
than that he was there and I was like, this is what I'm seeing. So I sort of feel like Mothman might be just sort of like Bigfoot is. Like I've never encountered Bigfoot. I've never seen a werewolf. I think I might have seen a vampire one time and it was
yeah,
really freaky. Um,
okay, okay.
very freaky.
You piqued my freaking curiosity because I've yet to have someone who actually believes in vampires, let alone thinks they experienced one.
I don't
So
know if
you,
I believe so. I think I can say all right. So definitely I believe after what I experienced. However, I think these things are so very rare or so very hidden, you know.
well,
I'm
I
not
mean,
sure. I don't know. It's sort of like what is a fairy, Like I've actually encountered a fairy one time in my life and it was with a whole group of people, an entire like family plus friends at a picnic. And it started as a joke where they were like, Sunshine, invoke for fairies so we can see them. And I did. I said a little prayer and we had put out sugar cubes. And then there was this like beautiful purple orb that looked like it had a creature inside of it floating up from the ground. And this was again a moment of just like unmistakable, like, this is weird. And I immediately, being a skeptic really at heart, was like, oh, that's somebody playing a trick on us. I thought one of the lady's husbands was playing a trick. And I marched up to it and it disappeared. Poof, like that. And the children were mad at me because I scared the fairy away. So um, I think there are creatures that exist. Maybe it takes a group consciousness to bring it out. I don't know. I don't know. Like,
I
not
don't think it
really.
takes.
I
I don't
don't
think it
know.
takes a group. I don't think it takes a group consciousness. I think it takes just like the right person, like the right person with
Maybe.
the right connections. Like if you're a clairvoyant psychic medium and your family has a history of dealing with fairies, then maybe a fairy will come out to you. Like that's what I think it is.
Maybe it was just like very magical, and then I ruined it. And it was sort of like it was the same kind of feeling I got when I saw Mothman, and the same kind of feeling with a vampire. So I'll tell you my vampire story
Oh, I'm
because
dying to hear it.
I mean at the time, let's see, I was probably just 21, like just 21, and I had kind of like a fascination in the first place with vampires. And at the time anyway, I even had little fangs made before, like, you could buy them at, the stores the way that you can now. And it was interesting because I would live mostly a nocturnal life anyway, and then wake up and and be awake for most of the night and sleep for most of the day. And I was just doing that anyway. And there was a bar that I didn't normally go to, but I had a friend that I was waiting for, and they were like, "We'll just wait at the bar down the street." I was like, it's kind of like what I would call an old man bar, but okay. And
Hey,
I was
old,
just sitting
old
there.
man old man bars are sometimes the most interesting bars you ever go to.
Right, but at my age of 21, I wanted, I was kind of like a bar snob. I wanted to be at Limelight, or I wanted to be, not even in New Jersey drinking at a bar waiting for someone, right? Sort of like,
Yeah.
it was just like, and this was in Bound Brook, New Jersey. Okay. So I don't remember the name of the bar, but I just remember being like, this is like an old man bar. And it was very dark inside, and there were a lot of interesting characters in there. Um, it definitely had an odd feeling and an odd smell, not like your average old man bar. And I hate to say it that way, but that's just the way I can express it. And um, there was a young guy who was surrounded by a big group, like a big entourage. And it seemed like he was kind of trying to show off his money. They were playing, some kind of like gambling on the pool games or something. I forget what they were gambling on, but there was like money being exchanged, lots of shots being done, lots of laughing, the laughing getting louder and louder. And um, eventually, this young guy who was surrounded with this really weird entourage, which sort of looked like a mixture of what I would call cowboys, but I would call them gauchos. I would call them Mexican cowboys or South American cowboys, because they were
Okay.
all speaking Spanish, and they all kind of were tall, good looking. Um, Always weird that I would remember this, but like one of them had a really interesting mustache. I don't know. It was like, it's just like a group of people that felt like they were walking out of a Quentin Tarantino movie, literally.
What do
And
you call what before you go on,
mhm.
what do you call an interesting mustache? 'Cause I'm kinda
Yeah, it was
curious now.
interesting mustache. I was just thinking like it was very like bushy, like
Unique?
kind of like I don't know how to just I don't know. It was just a weird thing that I just noticed about one
Like
of the
like
men.
like a unique mustache, like one that's
Yeah, like Sam
well
Elliott style mustache, like very
oh,
like
okay, yeah.
almost like a again like a cowboy, really, but they seem to be kind of like proud of their mustaches. They play with them. It was just a really weird group.
Mm,
And this young guy comes over and he's um, trying to chat me up a little bit and asks to buy me a drink. And I'm like, sure, you can buy me a drink. And I'm like, boy, you're really cleaning up over there, making the money kind of thing. And he's like, well, I'm the boss, so I make the money. I'm like, okay, all right, you're the boss, whatever. Just trying to get, past small talk or whatever. And he wasn't good looking and he wasn't not good looking. He just wasn't my type in particular, which would have
just
been
the ri
probably tall, skinny goth guy would have been more my type at that time, you know?
yeah, I mean, I know yeah, I tried to go goth for a while in high school, but I was never skinny, so that's just
Well,
the way it goes.
so this guy was like, he's somebody I definitely would have gone out on a date with, definitely would have, you know, probably not considered myself staying with, but was fine just to chat with him. Again, I'm 21 years old. I'm young. And he was about the same age, or at least he looked that young. And he's like, what will you have? I was like, well, I've been drinking red wine. And I had my fangs in. And he said, oh, I like your teeth. I said, do you? And he's like, yeah, it's kind of weird that you're here tonight. And I was like, why would that be weird? And he's like, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 21. He's like, and he looks at me weirdly. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, how old are you? And he's like, you know how old I am. And I was like, okay, this is getting very strange. So I switched topics and I go, hey, what do you do? What do you do for a living? He says, I own a pig farm in Argentina. And I go, oh, okay. And he said, that's how I've made all of my millions. My family's had it for years and years. I'm like, okay. It's like, that's why we're always the boss. Again, going back to being the boss. And then this guy was like, kind of going back to his friends. And I was like, well, that was odd. That was a really weird encounter. Again, I was like, well, maybe it was my fangs. Maybe he was weird about my fangs or something. And
Possibly.
then, and then the guy with the very weird mustache came over to talk to me. He was getting a drink. And he had this way of sort of like looking into middle space and talking at the same time. And, kind of like playing with his glass a little bit. And he said something to me to the effect of, do you want to make those teeth real? And I was like, what do you mean they are real? Just playing. Again, I'm 21. I don't know what the heck's going on here, right? It's just like haven't been in bars a whole lot, And the guy puts his hand on my shoulder and he's like, do you want to make your teeth real tonight? And I said, I don't know. He goes, you know what I'm talking about. My boss, he likes you. And we can take care of you. We can make sure that you get, you know, turned into one of us. And I was like, what? And when he smiled, he had fangs. Fangs.
But I mean, is it possible he's one of those people who just had his teeth grinded down and look like that?
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't get a look at anybody else. I actually got scared because I felt that they were also getting more and more drunk, more and more sinister in other ways, perhaps. So I was like, I'm getting the heck out of here. So I remember I didn't even meet up with my friend. I just literally was like, I'm going to New York. I can't deal with this. So it
Yeah,
was
I mean,
that was a moment in time where I felt actually really freaked out because I didn't notice fangs. The guy didn't smile that widely that I was talking to. I didn't notice it on the other men, but this one guy, the way he looked at me and then his smile when I saw the fangs, I was like, "Oh shit. Like this is what vampires are. I don't want to be a vampire pig farmer. I don't want to drink pig's blood."
well, I mean, you don't know they drank pig's blood, but
I I
if
I, I just can only
if it
maybe assume it.
if I mean, well, there's enough TV shows out there nowadays that prove the point that if you're a vampire and you work in the medical field or know someone in the medical field, you can get human blood pretty easily. But
Maybe. I mean, can you
but
though? I mean, can you? I don't
I mean,
know.
I mean, you're a vampire. You could according to lore, you can move faster than the eye can see and the cameras can see.
Yes,
So,
yes.
I mean, but
I don't
I mean,
know.
that's all lore though. We don't really know because 'cause I've yet to talk to a real vampire. I wish. I mean,
Well, that's
as a m I mean, I'm not you. As a man, I would've been like, "Yo, go for it. Go for it. Go for it." But, like, as a woman, I can understand your hesitation to do anything because women face so many more challenges than men face in public nowadays.
that was scary. Yeah. And I was
I
not
mean,
I wasn't necessarily I was like a little scrappy thing, like I could like I said, born in the call lots of times, dangerous situations, totally safe. Okay, you know, so
But your clairvoyance didn't give you any feelings about him? Like
oh,
any
they gave me feelings like that's a fucking vampire and I better get the fuck out of here because they were like,
see
yeah, like that's what I felt. I was like, what? And not only that, but they were trying to get me to like go with them to this very remote place. They were like, we have a place nearby, we can take you there, we'll do the ceremony. It was like this whole thing. And I'm like,
see, but
how could this be that I'm at this old man bar? These are the people who are there. Why are they there? And why does this guy have fangs? I didn't wait around to like check everybody else. I was like, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
see, I mean, yes, I understand why you did that as a female, because as a female, I wouldn't wanna be taken to a remote location either, but I've seen too many horror movies that end that way.
Yes,
But
exactly.
as a man, I would have been like, "Let's go, let's go." Like, let's like, "You ain't gonna do anything to me, so let's go." Like, either you're gonna turn me to a vampire or we're gonna get drunk in a remote place. Whatever, either way
Right,
it works.
right.
Like,
I was
either
like, I
way,
don't
but
know. I don't know. It was very,
see
very weird. Like they shouldn't have been there at that time. I don't know why. Again, I don't know why they were there.
see
It was weird. It seemed like it seemed like the younger guy, if he was younger, was looking for something. You know, maybe
new
it was
victim.
his vampire queen or something, and I missed my chance, but
Oh,
I don't
you might
know.
have. You might have. I don't
Maybe.
know, but I mean, you also could have avoided a chance that horrible things happen to you, so props
Yeah,
on that.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
I mean, that's the way I would look at it from now on, is that you missed a chance that horrible things happen to you, and that's a good thing.
But it was
But I
really
mean
interesting to meet what I could definitely feel like, and I could feel the negativity on them as well too. So it was like very
Mhm.
strong, like I would feel in a haunted
uh,
house, very heavy
see
energy.
I mean, see, I love shows like What We Do in the Shadows
Yes,
because
it's
because
cute.
I my roommate and I when I used to live in New York, my roommate and I, who now is passed, RIP,
Oh.
we used to always be like, "Yo, if a vampire came up on me and said, like, I wanna make you my vampire understudy," I'd be like we both would be like, "Yeah, go, 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 go." Like, I wanna live forever. I wanna be rich in 100 years and not have to worry about anything and just live forever, being able to read everything that's been written in the world and, like, just being able to sit at home and watch hours and upon hours of TV without needing sleep and, like, oh, that's just my dream life, not needing anything but, like, a little bit of blood here and there. So, go to a bar, find someone, bring them home, and get their blood, whatever. But, like, it's just, like, that's the dream. That's the dream for me since I was, like, 20 since I was, like, freaking 15, 16. Like,
Well,
become
definitely, I think definitely if they had been glamorous vampires, it might have been a different story, you know. But
well, yeah, I
this
mean,
was
if they
spooky.
rolled up if they rolled up in the Mercedes and, like, they were, like, Johnny Depp looking level, then yeah, maybe, but
I don't know. I mean, they had the guy had a nice car. I mean, it just was like just so weird, just so weird, just
I
not
mean,
for me.
I mean, it's a whole different perspective from male to female. Because male, I ain't worried about shit. If they wanna try to do shit to me, they're gonna have a whole 'nother story. But
Right,
as a
right,
female, it's like, I understand your hesitation and I respect it because
yeah.
I would be the same way if I was a female, but it's just, that's my lifelong dream to live forever. Like, to not like, to be able to eat whatever I want and not have to worry about repercussions in my health or anything like that, like,
Wouldn't that be amazing?
I mean I had to have freaking surgery because I couldn't handle that to begin with as a human. But,
Oh no, yeah,
like
no.
yeah, like, to handle like, to be a vampire, not to worry about it at all,
I
like,
I don't
fuck.
want to live forever. Definitely,
I
I
do.
don't want to live forever.
Oh, I do. I mean,
I feel
yeah,
like I feel like
it
at least I want to live forever, but I want to live forever on Earth,
oh, but if you're a vampire, when they finally go to space, you can get a ticket and you won't die no matter what.
no matter what. I know, I
I mean,
know.
you can get thrown into freaking space, and as long as you land somewhere, eventually you'll live. Like,
Right. It's
that's
true. It's
that's
true.
how
I
epic it
mean,
is. Like,
It has
Ah,
it has its perks, but I do feel that whole, like, I would become the melancholy vampire who's like, "I just wanna go now," you know? Because honestly, sometimes with, having had the near death experience, it was such a beautiful place. I can't imagine having to stay here, forever and, see the rise and fall of what humans do. I would not enjoy it. But
see,
to
I
just
would.
kind of, like, have superpowers, I would understand that,
Well,
yes.
see, if I can get bit as a vampire now at 34,
Uh-huh.
it'd be perfect. Cause
Perfect age, yeah.
perfect age. Cause I would just read everything I could, and in a couple years, when I was supposedly be 38, 39, whatever, I'm gonna live to 150. Fuck y'all. But like at that point, it's gonna be like I'm running for a political office, and
Oh, that's true, you could do that as long as nobody finds out your vampire secret.
why would? How would they?
I don't know, I mean,
By the time they did, I'd be president. That's my theory. By the time they did, I'd be president, and my Secret Service would protect my secret.
that's right, okay.
Which
That could be.
I mean, 8 years as president, and then you get to live with a freaking fat paycheck every year for doing nothing. So I mean, that's just. I mean, if I was a vampire, that's what I would do. If
There
I
we
was a
go.
vampire, I'd work my way up to a freaking president, write books, write whatever. You have all the time in the world to do nothing. So
Yeah, you could
I,
do whatever you want, true. I mean, I think,
I mean,
there
run a podcast for
you go.
100 years, and eventually just say you're passing it on to your son who looks exactly like you.
Exactly, "This is my child, just change, like, the color of your hair or something."
Nope, not even. Just Jeremy Bryant Jr.
There we go. There we
Like
go,
nobody knows.
and
Nobody's gonna be looking at my birth certificate to see proof. Like
no, and then it goes to the 2nd, the 3rd, all the way to the 4th, the
exactly.
5th. Yeah, that could
All all
happen.
the all the way to the 16th or the world ends. Like either way. But all right.
That could happen.
I know our time's coming to a close,
Yes.
and I don't want to run your time over. But do you have a little bit more time or no?
I actually don't because I have someone waiting for
Yeah.
me to get right on the phone with them as soon as I'm off with you.
All right. Well,
I'm a busy girl, busy, busy.
I understand that, and I appreciate that because I am a busy man myself. I have another show at 8 o'clock tonight.
Oh,
Maniacal
very
Music Musings.
nice, very
Be
nice.
sure to check it out, people. But it's some artists I never heard of versus uh Polka Dot Cadaver versus Serge Tankian. But yeah. Um
Interesting. I'll have to check it out.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Actually, it's before I freaking it's I know his Avi Kaplan. That's his name, Avi Kaplan.
Interesting.
Which which that was the guest choice. So we
Very
tried to
cool.
match it as best we could, but I will definitely have Sunshine back on at some point because I didn't even touch a quarter of the topics I wanted to touch tonight.
No,
But it's just been a good hour and I can't complain. So I'm not gonna
thanks so
complain. But
much.
Sunshine, where can they find you if they want to get in touch with you to seek your services?
You can contact the shop that I work for in Salem, Massachusetts. It's called Ascend, Get Lifted. You can find me on Facebook under Sunshine E Star, and you can friend me. Then you can send messages to me, and I can also direct you towards, how to get in contact with having an actual reading or session with me if you want, or if you have any questions or comments that you want to chat with me about. Facebook Messenger is a good place to do that for me.
You heard her, folks. Go there, and I may have to take the kids to Salem again. I haven't been to Salem since before COVID, but I may have to return again this year just
Oh,
to just to go see Sunshine. I might have to do it just to see her.
it's
And
whipping up. It's whipping up into a season. It's very, very busy here. So
I'm
busy
sure.
already, and it's just the beginning of October, so I can't imagine what it's
I
gonna
mean,
be
I may
like by actual Halloween.
yeah, I may have to wait till November. Just saying,
Probably
I
November, then we could actually talk.
yeah. But for all my guests, you know where you can find me, and I am gonna make a pre-recorded thing pretty soon with everywhere you can find me because I'm sick of saying it every episode. Just saying. It's a lot of places, and it's just easier to make something pre-recorded and put it in at the end because I don't think people listen that far in anyway. But
Oh, they sure do, I bet.
oh, they do. But I mean, they know where they can find me. I'm on everything. Just search Paranormal the Normal or Juggalo Bastard or Jeremy Bryant, and you'll find me. But thank you, Sunshine, for coming on. It's been an absolute
Thank
pleasure
you.
talking to you. We literally talked about 3 things the whole show. That's how awesome this show has been. Normally, I go through, like, 5 different fields with someone like you at least, but jeez, it's just been that good a show. Oh my
Well,
god.
Mothman, like cryptids are something that fascinate me, and I'm always like, I
Ooh,
just couldn't believe what
alright.
I saw, what I felt was crazy. So thanks for letting me get
Audience,
to talk about that for once.
my pleasure, and I made that sunshine on, like, 5 times in the next year or something like that just to fully get through everything she does, but we'll see what happens, and hopefully she'll be back on at some point, I'm sure, 5 times, maybe, maybe,
I'm
maybe.
saying
I'm not
peace.
oh, I was gonna say 5 times, I'm not pushing my luck, but thank you, Sunshine, and thank you to all my listeners and watchers. I will catch you tomorrow with another paranormal interview, I think. If not, I'll see you next week.